If you follow the channel, you might remember me going to a little machine shop just down the road from me. I've only just discovered it recently. And the dude there is Ted. I heard a story about Ted from 2 different people. So I broached him on it and he agreed to come over and tell his story. So he's coming over in a minute. So get yourself a nice cup of tea, put your slippers on, and let's see what Ted has to say.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait.
Hello, Warren. Well, this sort of story begins when I was at a young age of 8 years old. It started initially where my parents operated a business in a little place called Netley Abbey near Southampton, which was established in 1912 as a bicycle shop. As things moved on from the First World War, etc., it became a garage. My dad operated it as a garage through his lifetime. As a spare time bit of fun, he used to mechanic for an amateur racing driver in the 1950s, a guy called Reggie Bicknell. He used to drive his own car, which they used to call the 500s, powered by motorbike engines, etc. My part of the story comes in 1955, when at Silverstone they had the Austin Jubilee, which was the 50th anniversary of the Austin Motor Corporation. There was all sorts of events on that day, but one of them was a J40 pedal car race. And somehow or other, being connected with racing through my dad and his mate, I got entered in this pedal car race. I was number 19 towards the back, and we had to pedal the pit straight of Silverstone at that particular point. Anyway, the flag went down, away we went. I had a little bit of a hiccup in the start because the guy in front of me faltered. But anyway, I got away and I was pedaling like mad, and somehow or other I worked myself up to the lead, and ultimately I won the pedal car race with a 3-second lead at an average speed of 16.61 miles an hour. Quite a feat for a little pedal car. I was presented with my laurels, and the prize was another pedal car, exactly the same. Quite something in those days, by a racing driver called Tony Walt, very famous Grand Prix driver at the time. Anyway, I had my new pedal car, which I pedalled around the pits afterwards. At the time, I used to like to get autographs of famous racing drivers, and I did get most of them. You know, Sterling Moss would have been one of them, a lot of drivers on that particular era. But the one I couldn't get, Juan Manuel Fangio, an Argentinian. At Goodwood races and other events around the country, as a little kid I used to go up to him, being an Argentinian, whatever, I don't know, maybe he didn't like me, but he just used to brush me away. Anyway, I tried a different tactic this time. I pedalled up to his racing car that he was racing on the day in my little J40 with my crash helmet on, the laurels and everything that goes with it, and pulled up alongside his racing car, and again he brushed me away as I offered him my autograph book. But then he put that aside and he came up to me alongside me and signed the crash helmet. Fangio across the lapel at the top there. And then afterwards he did sign the autograph book. You know, sadly time has gone on and I haven't got it now. But I was made up as a young kid. Anyway, time moves on, and my dad used to go to Brands Hatch at times. At the specific time, he had a Mark 7 Jaguar. A few months later, we went to Brands Hatch, and on the way back, we called to see my auntie that lived in Staines. But as a kid, I was so chuffed with this crash helmet that I used to wear it everywhere. Whenever we went to a motorcycle event, I used to put the crash helmet on. I was only 8 years old, but there it was. Kids had their little fads at the time. Anyway, On this particular evening, we left Staines round about midnight, travelling back to Southampton. Would have been on the old road, I think they used to call it the A30 or the A31 or whatever at that time. But the road you had to pass through Chertsey. Anyway, in the centre of Chertsey was a set of traffic lights, and my dad was in the row of traffic going across these lights, and I don't know what happened, but suddenly another identical type Jaguar appeared from the left-hand side road coming against the red light, and somehow or other he just hit my dad's car side on, pushed it across the road, and it hit a tree. Well, a Mark 7 Jag is a pretty solid bit of equipment. Anyway, it just... a nasty crash, wrote the car off. My mum's head went up and hit the windscreen, and she was in hospital for a long time with head injuries. My dad hit the steering wheel, he broke a few ribs. I must have I was asleep on the back seat, flew up in the air, hit the roof and whatever, came back down again, and I was in a bit of a mess. But ironically, I was wearing this crash helmet at the time, and it did save my life. But the weird thing was that the crash helmet was smashed, and the crack was in the shape of a horseshoe. And ironically, in the centre of that horseshoe was Fangio's autograph. So somehow he brought me a bit of luck. Anyway, things moved on, and many years have gone on, and that particular pedal car race was quite a unique occasion. But in recent times they've started repeating the race again at the Goodwood Revival. I think it was this year, it was 67 years virtually to the day that all this happened. At Goodwood I had the privilege of meeting the guy that came second in this pedal car race all those years ago. We shook hands on the day, and we shook hands at Goodwood this year. So you never know what happens many years later that you don't expect. That's the tale of my pedal car, which I hope you find of interest. And the actual car I've still got. In fact, it was on display at the Goodwood Revival this year. Cheers, I hope you will enjoy it.
How about that? You made me cry telling that story. That's fantastic. So thanks so much for telling us and sharing this story. I'm sure everyone's going to find it fascinating.
Most of these children here are relatives of actual racing drivers.
Oh, really?
Now, in the background here, that is actually John Cooper, of John Cooper fame, and that is his daughter in the yellow cardigan. 20 cars in the race, numbered from number 1 to number 12. They missed out number 13, and they went up to number 21, and I was number 19 in the second row.
What colour's your car?
I'm not sure at the moment. I raced a different car to what I won, you see.
Oh, I see.
That's me. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at the yellow helmet. I think that's me there. We'll soon see when I win. When we go across the finishing line, I'll see what the car is.
Here he comes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh look, this is you getting the laurels. Unfortunately, the video's got all this nonsense. Right, there's Ted. You should watch this video because it's on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description.
The traditional laurels presented to a breathless but proud Eddie French by his real-life hero Tommy Rowe.
Eddie French.
Yeah.
Look at that. How brilliant is that? Massive thanks to Ted for this, and we'll catch you next time. Hang loose.